This is the YMB and BTC Podcast.
Cryptocurrency decrypted.
Welcome to episode 90. This week, we're chatting about a brand new partnership between at least 9 big banks around the globe. They've all decided that a blockchain could provide huge benefits to the world of finance, so they want to develop some protocols for creating and using such a tool. We'll discuss how legitimate and how helpful we think a big bank blockchain would be, the morality of bankers in general, and tons more. But before all that, a quick public service announcement. Your hosts today are Tim Baker, John Stuart, and myself, Daniel Brown. Here we go. Okay guys, welcome to the YMB and BTC Podcast. As always, glad to have you. It is episode 90. Holy crap, another multiple of 10. Those are always fun. The show is just necessarily better when it's a multiple of 10, so that's fun. I am Daniel Brown, and I'm here with
Tim Baker, and as for me, I think Daniel's having a little bit too much fun already.
Yeah, and John Stuart.
What do you mean? Who said I was having fun, Tim?
I mean, I don't have a problem with it.
Do you guys discriminate against multiples of 10? Actually, I guess I'm the one that's discriminating against every other kind of number, but
yeah,
whatever.
Bigot.
Shut up, Tim. They're better and you know it.
Maybe,
So, guys,
yeah.
is there some kind of sound effect that we could use for an alert or something, or like a warning? We have a public service announcement to make. If I find something good, then it'll be here, and you might have...
Yeah, like, okay, either that, or I was going to say the lady from that video where she's crushing grapes with her foot and she falls out. I think she's hurt.
Oh, man, I can't imagine. I don't want to hear myself make that sound, but I'm going to have to. Oh, boy. Anyway, yeah, public service announcement. Nothing new. We talk about scams all the time, and we remind people briefly that they exist and they're pretty common in Bitcoin, but we figured because of kind of a specific incident, we figured we'd just, for fun and just to remind people, we would mention it, kind of tell you a little bit about how this went down, and how you can avoid scams.
By a specific incident, Daniel means he already donated about $500 and is really fucking pissed off right now.
No. That was for the legit one. Tomorrow they're going to send me 300% back. That one's legit.
Really?
But yeah.
Oh, that's cool, man. I'm sure it's going to work out.
You should put all your Bitcoin into it.
Oh.
Wait, did
you have
actually do a scam?
No.
Are you kidding me?
John's like, really? Did you do this?
No, I know. I realize he doesn't actually think they're going to send it back, but did you actually send them money?
No.
Okay.
No, I made up that one. The real scam...
Oh, that was great, Dan. You're really quick on your feet.
Yeah, I like to think I'm pretty quick. I've had friends tell me that I'm quick with the humor sometimes. So you know what?
Said that? Who's ever said that?
Quick with the humor.
That is the stupidest phrase I've ever heard.
Obviously, they're not right, but they've said it, so. Oh, gosh. Yeah, no, the real scam, not the real scam, the fake scam, the scam that is a scam, I don't know. It's called Global Advisors Bitcoin Investment, or GABI for short. Yeah, it's just an email that got sent out to a ton of people. I mean, I got it to all 3 of my email addresses that are sort of somewhat kind of associated with Bitcoin. And yeah, somehow, I mean, it's a common thing out there. People make giant email lists and send spam. Everybody knows that. I mean, it is interesting. It's in order to reach that many people, I mean, the list had to come from somewhere. I don't know if it was an exchange that was hacked. I don't know, something like Mt. Gox or something that leaked a list. I don't know, but they got it and they sent out. It's actually a pretty decently designed email. I mean,
it looks very professional. It looks a lot better than some emails I've gotten from legitimate sites.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's one of the reasons that this one is more worth mentioning than the scams that come out every day. I mean, I get almost every day like all this. It's just plain text, and it says like poor grammar, and it's like 2015 double bitcoins today, but everything's spelled wrong, and it's like send money to this address and we will return double instantly. You can win money. There's a whole bunch of bad scams that come out every day, or they're not even coming out. It's just like copies and repeats, whatever. But yeah, this one, it's really well designed. They've got some whatever CSS, HTML. It's laid out real nicely. They've got like headings and quotes and all this information, and then they tell you that they'll give you. It's a super quick investment. A month later, they're going to give you 150% of your investment back. So that's the ROI or whatever. And yeah, it looks nice. They even have, like at the end, they have copyright, and they give you their address, which maybe it's a real place, but whatever. But yeah, point is they make it look good. Everything here looks pretty legit except for the get rich quick part, right? So if you got it, don't send money. It's a scam.
Or instead, send that money that you were going to send to them, send it to us.
Yeah. If you were going to, you know what, Tim? We'll actually,
what?
We're going to save them money. We're going to provide a service. We're still going to save them money. But yeah, if in return for our saving you money, you can send us 90%. That way you'll save 10%. So you'll still save money, and we'll get paid for providing you with this public service announcement, right?
If you couldn't figure this out for yourself, yes. And actually, if you couldn't figure this out for yourself, I say you give us 100% because you'll just listen to anything that you say, that you hear.
Yeah, well, seriously though, not really for this, but for anything, we do have a donation address at youmeandbtc.com. We always love it when people use that. I think the biggest thing to take away here is the get rich quick aspect, right? I mean, if you're ever not sure, just if it's too good to be true, then it's not true, right? That's it. That's what you got to be looking for.
Well, I mean, I say, yeah, look at that. And then also, if that doesn't convince you, I mean, it may look too good to be true, but there's always that chance that might be real. So just check and see if someone else was stupid enough to do it first. And then you can profit from that.
Well, yeah, that's the other thing is the reputation. I mean, if it's too good to be true, then look for a reputation. And if it's like, well, it depends how you define too good to be true. I mean, most things that literally are too good to be true, well, then sure, it's not true. But if it's a really tempting offer and you're just not sure, yeah, just look for a reputation. Look around, see if anybody else has done it. That's huge. In any market, reputation is huge. So I guess I want to share also that I almost did get caught by, it wasn't a get-rich-quick thing, but just a really discounted deal on Bitcoin. I don't know, like 10 or 15% discount on Bitcoin. And it was weird, though, because they were accepting PayPal, which can be reversed. And I don't even know if PayPal is supposed to be, or I don't even know if PayPal users are supposed to be dealing with Bitcoin or if they're allowed to. And they were accepting PayPal and offering a really big discount. And I don't know why they would think that would be too effective, because you can reverse PayPal way too easily. All you got to do is say, hey, they didn't deliver, or they're dealing with Bitcoin, and they'll send you your money back. So I don't know how effective that was, but it's just a really big discount, and it wasn't legit. So yeah, look out for that stuff. Anything else, guys, before we move on? Didn't want to take too long because scams are everywhere, and we people should know that in the Bitcoin space, but it's worth mentioning.
Yeah, I missed the whole thing.
Now you know.
Wait, you missed it, John? Like you were gone?
Yeah, I wasn't in the call.
Wait, what?
You guys didn't realize that?
No.
I was gone for like 10 minutes because I don't.
What?
I don't know what happened, but it dropped the call.
I thought he might be gone because I made a comment one time and I would have figured that John would have responded. I was like, okay, maybe John isn't here. But then I was like, no, he's got to be here.
No, I wasn't. And I don't know what happened, but I didn't realize that I could rejoin the call, and I thought the call had dropped for like all three of us, so I was just waiting for you to call back, and then I was like, oh, I can still join this call. I don't really know what happened.
Well, you didn't miss much. It was pretty much exactly what we said we were gonna say. Watch out for too good to be true things. So I guess we'll let Tim kick off the next article. I'm pretty excited. Looks like a big partnership between banks. Something about the blockchain. So go for it, Tim.
Something about the blockchain. Okay. I was not aware, or else I was not listening before this was me, but the article's from Business Insider. It's called, if you want to look it up, 9 massive banks just teamed up to take the technology behind Bitcoin mainstream, which I just realized is not something you're going to type into Google, but whatever. That's why you're listening to us instead of looking it for yourself. None of the world's biggest banks on Tuesday threw their weight behind blockchain, the technology that powers Bitcoin. Okay, let's see if I can get through these. Barclays, BBVA, Commonwealth Bank of Australia, Credit Suisse, JP Morgan, State Street, Royal Bank of Scotland, and UBS have all formed a partnership to draw up industry standards and protocols for using the blockchain in banking. So that didn't last long before I messed it up.
I don't know. Is it Swiss or Swiss? I think it's Swiss. I would say Swiss.
Swiss? But the the partnership is being led by R3, which is a startup with offices in New York and London, and it's headed by David Reuter, the former CEO of ICAP, electronic broking, and a 32 veteran of Wall Street.
32-year veteran.
What did I say?
32 veteran.
32-year veteran of Wall Street.
Tim's typical just cutting stuff out of his sentences.
I expect you guys are intelligent to figure out when I just yell out different numbers that you're able to apply what it is.
Tim,
I think Daniel and I can, but
exactly
people listening probably can't.
Yeah, apparently Daniel and John also didn't get the sarcasm, but that's also probably my fault too, isn't it, guys? I'm sorry.
Wait, I mean, maybe you were being sarcastic.
No, he was definitely being sarcastic. I just like when people are being sarcastic and I treat them like an idiot.
I don't know if that was the right place to be sarcastic, though, because you're right. Like, we do understand you.
I want.
Yeah, I know, but you were saying something that was true. Like, we are smart enough to... No, we're not smart enough to understand you. We're dumb enough to understand you.
Thank you. I was speaking to the listeners, though.
Okay. All right.
Apparently, other banks have already signed on the partnership, so there's going to be more people behind it, more money behind it. But because of the release, the media release of saying who is on board with it, and the time frame of when they got on, they couldn't be named. I don't know why. But apparently also Goldman Sachs is involved in the partnership. As part of the partnership, banks are investing in R3. Reuter said, I can't reveal that, but it's been reported that it's several million. From my perspective of having the banks involved, the human element is more valuable. I don't know what that means, but it's at least several million already into the project, and what they're looking at is taking the blockchain that already facilitates the Bitcoin, the transactions, and then also has the ledger for it and shows every transaction, using that as for a fiat currency to make things quicker and cheaper. And according to them, they think it's going to make it quicker and cheaper.
Yeah.
And just make it more transparent, which I don't see how that's going to be helpful for them, but whatever.
Well, hang on, what's wrong with transparency?
No, I'm not saying it's wrong. I just don't know. I don't really think the banks want to get into it for that.
Okay. Well, I agree that, yeah, they like to manipulate things a lot, and maybe transparency isn't really in their favor. But
I mean, that's not even me necessarily saying it as like a bad thing towards them. It's just I understand it's like someone in that situation. You wouldn't want to have every single little mistake you made constantly seen.
Yeah,
so
I could see
even
that.
Like the most benevolent bank is still not going to... I wouldn't imagine they'd want to have more focus on their problems.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, I would agree that at the very least, there are people that make mistakes in banking that they wouldn't want revealed. And more likely, there's a lot of corruption. But I don't know. I feel like, I mean, honestly, even the corrupt people, I feel like to some extent, they're going to recognize, like, I mean, we talked about this last week, right? How they're going to have to go permissionless. And I think they just recognize that this is the right way to do things. This is going to make things more efficient and more legit. And I mean, if they're hardcore scammers, then fine, they might oppose it. But for the most part, the average banker out there is like, okay, this seems like a good thing. Let's do it. I mean, I think Antonopoulos talks about this some, where, I mean, he loves to bash the banks, but I think he'll admit, like, the next door neighbor who works at the bank, he's not a hardcore scammer. It's just a terribly designed system. And so I think the average dude out there who works at the bank, I mean, even the CEOs, I think they're going to say, hey, oh yeah, it's transparency. It's going to make things better for the people. Let's do it. I think. Do you?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I can agree with that. Yeah, mostly.
Join the club, join the club, join the Bitcoin Talk Club.
Interested in Bitcoins or altcoins? Love chatting? We are the place for you. Bitcoin Talk Club is a new forum sensation coming to a computer near you. Whether you're a professional coin developer or someone that wants to know more, our doors are open for you. We are looking for people to join and help build this forum into a one-stop knowledge base for everyone's needs. We're looking for you at BitcoinTalk.club.
Join the club, join the club, join the Bitcoin Talk Club.
So another thing that I think we have to talk about is what they mean by the blockchain. Because they do say the blockchain, they don't say a blockchain. And in some senses, that could refer to the Bitcoin blockchain, just because it's kind of the biggest and the standard one out there. Or maybe they mean the blockchain as in just kind of the idea of the blockchain or the invention that is the blockchain. And that's the difference there is kind of a big deal. I don't think they say anywhere in here if they're going to actually use the Bitcoin blockchain or if they're going to create their own. But I think it really matters because, this is something I feel like we touched on it last week, but we do mention it quite a bit, is just, well, how much control are they going to have over the blockchain? If a bank starts making its own blockchain, how much control are they going to have? And in this case, it's, 9 banks? I mean, and they say more are interested, but even if it was like 30 banks, and even if they modeled it after the Bitcoin blockchain where nobody had like extra privileges, I guess that would be permissionless, right? If there was nobody with special permissions, even then, there's still only 30 banks. That's just a guess. I mean, that's if we take the 9 and add a bunch more. Let's say there's 30, right? That's not a distributed network, right? I mean, there's one of those banks could get enough hashing power or buy enough hashing power, maybe, to manipulate the blockchain. Do you guys, do you know what I mean? And do you see that happening?
Yeah. Well, first of all, to the first part about whether it's the Bitcoin blockchain or just blockchain in general, I think it's definitely blockchain in general. A, because this is Business Insider, and I don't think they are worried about the nuance of the difference between those two things.
Right.
And 2, because this one paragraph said the blockchain is the software that powers and regulates cryptocurrency Bitcoin. So it seems like they're just that's what they're calling blockchain technology. I guess whoever wrote this doesn't realize that there can be more than one. Right.
Yeah, well, I think also, I think what's more likely is that there is no decision yet. I mean, it's probably possible to do it with Bitcoin. It would probably be a lot more convenient to create a new a new one. And my guess is they would lean towards creating a new one, but I don't think there's anything official yet. They just want to do something with the blockchain.
Yeah. Well, Barclays, which is one of the banks, they, like a couple weeks ago, I guess, started using Bitcoin for charitable donations, actual Bitcoin. So there is that.
Yeah, that's true. That's something they mention in here too. And it's just kind of a general experiment with Bitcoin. They're just like, oh, everybody loves Bitcoin. It looks helpful. Let's try it out in this area and see what happens. So that's pretty cool. And yeah, that is directly Bitcoin. So
what does it say in the article? It says something like, I guess Barclays head or someone at the top is saying that they have 45 potential uses for blockchain technology already.
Right. Yeah, and that's huge.
Who's Santander? Do you know?
It's a bank.
Santander.
Yeah, it's a bank.
Oh, okay. Santander is the bank. It has told Business Insider that it's looking at 25 different uses.
Right. Yeah, so that is pretty cool. And I mean, when you think about it, with a bank, yeah, there's so many different things that they could do, right? I mean, it's not just having money and transferring it. It's loans. It's the stock market kind of thing. It's savings accounts. It's all kinds of stuff. And yeah, it seems like, and they mentioned smart contracts too. And obviously that would just open up a world of possibilities. So yeah, it seems like there's a ton of stuff that it could help with the banks and stuff. So that's definitely exciting. I still want to know about this control thing though. So I think we've agreed that it's pretty likely, maybe almost certain, that they're going to create their own blockchain. So then what do you guys think about control? I mean, theoretically, they could allow anybody to mine on the blockchain, but they wouldn't really have much incentive to, I don't think. So, I mean, if it was just controlled, I mean, even if every bank had its own node, I mean, that's a little bit decentralized, but even if you say 200 or 300 banks, do you think that's enough distribution? Do you think that's going to prevent manipulation?
No. That's why I wouldn't really put any trust as far as making things decentralized coming out of a system that pretty much has to be centralized for it to exist. Like, there's no need for it. There's no need for how big it is if it's not centralized.
Hold on. Why? Okay. That I was about to ask why you think it has to be centralized. So you're saying if it's going to be decentralized, it's going to have to downsize just because it's easier.
Well, there's no use for it. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot of bloat. Yeah. There's a lot of bloat in the banking system that could be trimmed away by decentralization, but the banks don't really want to cut away that bloat, or
it's one of the industries that only exists because of a government kind of backing behind it, or a government threat of violence if you compete with them without, or if you do business outside of them. Like, you won't necessarily go to jail, but if you do a little bit too much, like the Liberty Dollar or something like that, then you'll get in trouble.
I know what you're saying. It's worth clarifying, though. It's not that the banks only exist because of government. It's that the giant banks only exist because of government.
Yeah, but that's
I think what you were talking about is more the Federal Reserve than anything else.
I mean, I'm talking about the Federal Reserve. I'm talking about the large, like the big corporate banks.
Right.
Because
as an industry, I think it's completely different.
Yeah, I mean, the idea of banking itself is pretty decent. I mean, it's kind of based on loans. Well, both kinds of loans, loaning out money and accepting loans. That's really the core of banking. It's like, I have this money, I'm not using it, so I'll put it in the bank so they can loan it to someone. That's really the core of banking, I think. And I mean, I wouldn't be a huge fan. I wouldn't really strongly support people taking out loans like all the time, just because that's debt is pretty accepted as not a great thing, right? And when you take out a loan, then you're in debt. So it's not the greatest thing in itself, but it's still there's a time and a place for it, right? If you're trying to start a business, and if it's a really good idea, then sure. I mean, that's, if you really think a loan is going to help you, and if you're willing to take the risk, then go for it. And so, yeah, there is a place for that. And banking really does have value in the economy. But yeah, like we said, it's the existing kinds of banks are just crazy. So they're ill incentivized. But I guess I do want to add, though, that, and this is something that I think you like to bring up with a lot of topics, really, John, is just that, sure, maybe it won't be decentralized enough. Maybe it will be susceptible to manipulation by a certain bank. That's true if it really is a brand new blockchain and only, certain banks have access to it and only certain banks can mine on it or whatever. Sure, it could be susceptible, but that is still miles better than our current system where literally one person, I mean, this is a little bit of hyperbole, but really, in some senses, one person could just say, hey, why don't I add $1 million to my account? Bloop, tap a few keys, and there it is. That is incredibly centralized and incredibly susceptible to manipulation. And sure, a new blockchain, it wouldn't be ideal, but I think it would be so much better than what we have, especially if it is transparent and if they do allow third parties to just look at it and see what's going on. I think that's huge.
Yeah, I think it's huge. I'm just not hopeful for what they'll do with it. I'm not expecting big changes as far as for the better with banking. I'm not trying to paint too negative of a picture. I'm just saying I wouldn't be the one to expect positive changes from the big banks.
I guess
they're not incentivized to do it.
You mean they're not incentivized to finalize this blockchain plan, or they're not incentivized to actually behave better?
They're not incentivized to behave better. I'm sure that the blockchain will be useful for them. It's just I don't think they're going to focus on...
I could agree that they're not necessarily incentivized to behave better, but I think the point is that if they implemented a system like this, yeah, it might not be perfect, but in a lot of ways, I think it would force them to behave better. I think that's the idea. And
then why would they do it? Why would they put money into developing things that are going to force them to... Because of what I said
at the beginning. In a general sense, sure, the bankers are poorly incentivized. But if you go up to someone and say, hey, do you think this is a good idea? They're going to say yes. Because
I don't care what people say, Daniel. It matters what they're going to do. Everybody says they're going to do something better, but actually implementing it, that hardly ever gets done. I'm saying, as far as developing that side of it.
You just told me that you think... Because I asked if you think there's no hope for their behavior or no hope for them implementing this. And you said there's no hope for their behavior, but you don't think they're actually going to implement this?
I don't think they're going to develop the part of this that goes towards decentralization or making things more transparent. I think that they can develop separate things where maybe it's more of a ledger, but they just won't allow third parties to access it. It'd be more of just a blockchain just for them, maybe, like a private thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible. It's possible.
I don't see the reason why they would want to do it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that's possible, and I get that. No, I still think that the average banker is going to say, yeah, I want to do this. It looks like a good idea.
But is the average banker going to do it?
I think that's what this is. I think this is them doing it. I mean, I could see it. I could see the plans changing, maybe. They make some progress, and then they start compromising, and then they're like, well, maybe we don't need this. Maybe we'll do it this way. Maybe that could happen. But in terms of their goals right now, I mean, I think they really are at least saying they're supposed to implement something that theoretically should be really helpful. But I don't know. Maybe you're right. I mean, I guess I really could see them making compromises as they actually do the development. They might say, oh, well, we'll give certain banks permission to reverse transactions just in case something goes wrong, or we'll let them vote on if we should reverse a transaction just in case something goes wrong. Okay, I guess I could see stuff like that.
Okay.
A lot of the things you see as a merit, they're going to see as something bad, like the whole thing of we'll be able to reverse a transaction or whatever. They're not going to like that idea of something being just kind of out there and just leaving people out there to figure it out. And if they send money the wrong place, then they're kind of screwed unless if that person sends the money back or whatever happens.
Well, I just want to say, okay. So I know a guy who works at a bank, and he's a developer, like a programmer. And, I mean, I guess the first thing that's worth saying is that the people, like the CEOs and stuff like that, they're not the one... I mean, I think they have control over these kinds of decisions, but, like, the CEO doesn't tell the developers, like, how they're going to run their system. Like, that's why they hire developers. So, like, that, first of all. And second of all, just knowing that I have a friend who works there and knowing what he's like, I think there are lots of people who work at banks who don't necessarily like the way banks run. They just work there because... And, like, my friend who works at a bank, I feel like he would be totally on board for something like this. And he's in a position as a developer where he actually can step forward to, like, implementing it. I get the fact that, like, they're disincentivized, but I guess what I'm getting at is that there are people below the ones who are benefiting the most from banks being screwed up that actually care about how they run. And those people have more power than you think. And if it's going to make the bank more efficient, like, nobody's going to tell them to not do it. If people are like, we got this idea and we think it's going to make our bank better, they're not going to be like, no, don't do that.
Yeah.
But how does making it a public ledger make it better for the bank? Unless, like, I understand if you can get all public support behind it. I'm not saying it as far as, like, anyone who works at a bank is automatically trying to get me out of my money and trying to graft me for everything, but that's not the right word. But I don't automatically think that someone works at a bank that they're trying to do that. It's more that unless you're getting, like, a whole public campaign behind of being, like, we're going to have an open ledger and you're going to see what all your bank does, and that way they can kind of drive some public support for themselves, I don't see the incentive or how they can even make a case that it would make the bank run better if they had a public ledger.
Are you kidding me?
Okay, then, like,
It's
give me an
not.
example.
It's not even just about it being public. Like, just having the blockchain. Like,
No,
we've
yeah,
talked
no, I
about the
understand the
clearing and stuff.
blockchain.
In
I
so
understand the
many ways,
blockchain.
it can.
But making it public, what's the point of making it public for them? Because they can have it and they don't have to make it public, would they?
Yeah, I mean, that's true.
That's all I'm meaning is the public part of it. I understand I don't actually understand, but I grasp the concept of how it would make it easier for them using the blockchain. I'm just purely talking about the public part that kind of makes it a more transparent system.
Well, I mean, one reason that I can think of is the same reason that anybody likes Bitcoin for being public is that it's easier to spot scams and stuff like that, or people who are trying to manipulate things. And I'm sure that happens within banks plenty of times.
Yeah.
Like some mid-level manager or somebody like that could be manipulating stuff or trying to funnel a little bit of money out of stuff.
Yeah, you said within banks, John, and I think that's a valuable point. Like, they might a bank might want to make it public just because they don't trust the other banks and they want to keep an eye on the other banks.
Why would they all use the same blockchain?
People within their own bank.
That's what this is. That's the whole point of this. That's why they're doing a partnership, because they all want to manage transactions between banks better. That's what this is.
Well, I mean, what I was talking about was even people within their own banks. Like, I just heard this story about someone who works at the company where my aunt works, and basically they'd just been filing all this overtime, and nobody had caught it. Like, because of the way that they filed overtime, it had to be, like, checked by somebody before they would get the check or whatever. But if you sent it at a certain time, like, it would go through without people having to check. I don't remember all the details of it, but it was basically somebody was sending in all this overtime that they weren't actually doing, or even if they were doing it, they weren't allowed to be doing it, and so was stealing all this money from the company, basically. Like, stuff like that happens all the time.
Yeah, I think that's true. I mean, I don't know if it's definitive, but yeah, sure, there are definitely certain advantages to being transparent, and we can only hope that people see those and start using them. And yeah, if it does become a truly public ledger between banks, then I think that really would lead to, well, not instant perfection, but like I said, I just think it would be a real step forward. So, I mean, yeah, we'll see, I guess. We'll see what they do and how they decide to go about things. But I also, I want to say, like, I was already going to say this before that last story, John, but I think I texted Tim once how you're the only one of us who actually has, like book smarts or something, because every time me and Tim just start harassing each other and going on and on about this and that, and then John comes in, he's like, well, actually, I was reading this book the other day, or I was talking to this guy, or I know this guy that works at a bank.
I don't know. I feel like most of the time I'm stretching for evidence.
I don't know. Maybe it's a stretch, but I think it's always been helpful. And a stretch is better than nothing, which is what Tim and I normally have. We're just like, I think they're good. Well, I think they're bad. Well, I think they're good because I don't know.
Technically it wasn't. I mean, just because John said he knew a guy from a bank doesn't mean he has that much of a better interpretation of what the banks are going to do with it, though, Daniel.
Yeah, I just...
So it's going to end up being speculation pretty much all the time.
Yeah, that's true. But that wasn't my only example. I mean,
that was your only example.
No, I was saying
used.
I was saying, like, all the time he actually has decent information. Like, he's read books, or he's like had relevant conversations, like yesterday. Like, it seems like he actually thinks about this stuff, and me and you were just like yelling about it. Anyway, yeah.
I don't know if I would agree with that, but
I love these side points where Daniel tries to force one of us to accept like a role from his head.
No, he might be right. Maybe it comes off that way to everybody else, and I'm just trying to make it come off that way. It's all just a ruse.
Wait, what am I trying to force you to accept, Tim?
I don't know, Daniel. I'm just talking. Like a role on the show.
You're just trying to fit everybody into little boxes.
From your
Maybe.
mind,
Have I done that before? Have I put us into boxes before?
No, I think Tim was just trying to come up with something to insult you about.
Exactly. See, Tim just comes up with crap. But if it was John, he'd be like, I was talking to Daniel the other day, and he said this and this and this.
And you know what? No one wants to hear about your stupid conversation with Daniel.
So
This could
clearly,
be more of Daniel going, you know what, John? I really just think like you're exactly blah, 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 blah. Okay, go.
no, I was impersonating John more. I was going to be like, well, so clearly, because of all this evidence, Daniel is an idiot. Are you tired of Bitcoin dice and ready for something different? Try LuckyBit, the original falling coin game, at luckybit. It's the most exciting Bitcoin game on the web. You can bet on 5 different payout lines and win up to 999 times your bet. You can even use their faucet to get some free Bitcoin. Dice is boring. Play different at LuckyBit. Check it out at luckybit. So, a few quick and small things that I think are kind of funny about this article. At one point, they try to describe the blockchain, and I think this is terrible. Once other transactions are added in front of an exchange, the transaction is stuck there forever and can't be changed. In the same way that you can't change a brick once it's been built into a wall. What?
I mean, it's like, I guess it works, kind of.
You could do anything.
It's like when you put a room in a house, you can't take the room back out.
You could take a brick out. All you need is a hacksaw, or like tear down the entire wall and build a new one.
Well, that's obviously 100% attack, or a hacksaw is like a 25%.
See, this is another kind of show thing where I normally get really mad at Tim for complaining about metaphors, and now I'm complaining about a metaphor.
Yeah, well, that I don't know. That a brick gets built into a house.
I mean, I guess theoretically, like, in the same way that you could tear down a wall, you could tear down a blockchain with a lot of effort. And in the same way that you could take out a single brick, maybe you could undo a single brick, a single transaction with a lot of effort. Maybe.
But it's a chain, right? Why couldn't they just use the chain analogy?
Yeah.
Just like a link to a link to a link to a link to a link.
Yeah, I think that'd be decent. Anyway, it just sounds dumb, though. Like, the same way you can't change a brick once it's built into a wall.
Feel bad about yourself, Insider. Actually, feel bad about yourself, Oscar Williams Grunt, because you have a stupid name, too.
I can't really think of, like, a better analogy. I haven't really heard too many analogies. But, yeah, there's something just kind of dumb about that. I would agree. I don't know what it is, but...
The other thing is towards the end, it's Rudder again, or Rooter, as Tim said. I don't know which one's right. But the CEO of R3, the company that's trying to encourage this partnership, he says that he's been talking to banks for around 15 months, talking about this kind of a partnership, because he visited a bunch of blockchain companies and thought about investing in them. And then there's a quote. He says, "The light bulb went off that distributed ledger technology could be to finance what the internet was to media. Like, oh, wait a second. We could use the blockchain to move money quickly." The light bulb just went off. Like, what? You just realized that? I mean, I guess he says a little bit more than that. He says that it could be like the internet and it could really be some serious development in a bunch of areas. But still, like, oh, you just realized that the blockchain could be helpful in finance? No way.
Granted, this was 15 months ago, but still.
Yeah, but still, I mean, I would argue that we probably said some of the same kind of things on the podcast, which, you know,
well,
before that.
Yeah, I think we have.
You should have been listening to us a long time ago.
Does that mean we deserve to be CEOs of multi-million-dollar companies?
Maybe.
Definitely. Yes.
But I mean,
Maybe
even disregarding us, I mean that we heard plenty of other people say that all the time. That. How many people said Bitcoin is the internet of money?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I feel like
years
I
people
coined
have been
that
saying
on this show, but whatever.
Yeah, Tim was the first one to ever say the internet of money.
I mean, that's like what that whole conference we went to was about.
Yeah,
pretty much.
Yeah. How many months ago was that?
More than 15.
Yeah, it was right about
15.
yeah, because it was last summer.
Yeah, it was last June.
So, guys, what should our advice of the day be? I mean, we could do the scam thing, but that was kind of a separate thing. So what's our advice of the day with regard to the banking blockchain?
Make sure you're the guy that comes in with evidence or whatever it was Daniel was trying to say.
Yeah.
Don't trust a banker as far as you can throw him in a conversation, because then Daniel will believe you.
Wait, throw him in a conversation? How do you throw somebody in a conversation?
I switched, like, how I was going to say it halfway through. I kind of
Well, that's what we're here for.
This is
deconstruct everything you say and make you feel like an idiot.
I think I'm really just ahead of the times. It's like it's a de-evolution of the English language to its most basic form.
I actually
Tim thinks he's streets ahead.
I actually strongly support the de-evolution of English, just because, like, I appreciate the idea that I don't care if it's misspelled. If you know what I'm saying, you know what I'm saying. Don't tell me I have to put a comma there. If you know what I'm saying, you know what I'm saying.
Daniel will not be bossed around when it comes to grammar.
Yeah.
He's his own man.
There is a lot of ambiguity with English, but I also enjoy the fact that it's like a mutt language, pretty much.
Yeah.
I think that's part of its appeal.
What is it like? The English language beats other language in an alley and then goes through their pockets for spare phrases.
I've never heard that, but I like it.
I don't know where it's from.
Anyway, so John says to bring evidence if you want to sound important, at least important to Daniel. And
or
Tim
at least
says,
learn how to fake it enough that people will believe you.
Yeah.
I guess that's my evidence.
And Tim says, don't trust a banker as far as you can throw him in a conversation, whatever that means.
I mean, like judo throwing him, like
Tim,
linguistically,
we get it.
Like you're
we get
destroying an argument.
So heed all of that advice. My advice is come back next Thursday for more advice. It's like a genie. Your third wish is for 100 more wishes, or 3 more wishes, whatever. So come back next week for more evidence from John, more metaphors or metaphor hating from Tim, maybe more. I don't know. What do I provide? I don't know. But come back next week and a little
bit of more jokes from Daniel.
Oh yeah, quick humor from Daniel.
Most people tell me I'm very quick with humor.
And advice of the day at the end, if we remember. Come back next week for all that. We love you guys. Thanks for listening. Thanks for listening to episode 90. All of the music in today's show was from John Stuart. Remember to check out this week's show notes at youmeandbtc.com and leave us a comment. We'll see you next Thursday.